Hi, my name is Irena Swanson and today I want to show you how to make very sturdy shopping bags. The reason these shopping bags are so sturdy is that the straps go all the way around the bottom and they're also quilted, so there are more layers holding up all the weight. There are other reasons for quilting. It provides more protection for the contents inside. I make the handles big enough most of the time so that I can also put the bag over my shoulder, and the handles are also padded with some batting so that the weight doesn't gouge into my hands or into my shoulder. I mostly make my bags from leftovers from other projects. This bag in particular was made more than 20 years ago, shortly after I made this jacket. And anyway, because my bags are from leftovers, they come in different sizes, depending what I'm going to make with the bags. Alright, so let's get started. Once you have a top, quilt it. Here is a good time to experiment with different quilting techniques. You can use up bobbin threads because the back will never be seen, and this back could also be an old sheet. Once you have it all quilted, then trim down the bag, and at this point you can decide, well, maybe you want to trim it down further or leave it as is. Now the bag part is done. Well, let's work on the straps. Here I cut the strips for the straps 4 inches wide. I can also piece the straps, and when I do piece them, I connect different fabrics at a 45-degree angle. This part here is leftovers from some backing of a fabric, and it was not cut at 45 degrees. I will fix that. And the reason I don't want this, because later when all the folds happen, there would be too much bulk here if I don't have a 45-degree angle. Anyway, once you determine that this is a good length, so you do an experiment. How much room do you need for a handle? Is it the right length down there as well? Once you have a good enough length, then you fold these together without any twists. You don't want any twists in the handles. And then you will want to sew these two edges together to get a circle. Here is such a circle without a twist in it for the bag that's back here. I'm making lots of bags for this demo. And you can see that I already pressed those 45-degree angles open. And then what we want to do is start pressing the two edges towards the middle. They should meet near the middle. It's okay to leave a little gap inside, and anyway, press down. I did that on the next strapping here. This part is already pressed, and then I would have to press more, put the two edges to the center. Once that is pressed all the way around, then take these new edges and put them close together so there's one neat edge here. Okay. And press that all the way. I have a sample of that. So here is a quilting bag that goes with this strap with handles. There is no twist in here, and the first thing I want to do is I want to fold this circular strap into one piece, and at the two edges at the two ends I put in pins. These pins will be at the bottom of the bag. So this here is the bottom of the bag, this is a top, then this another top on the other side. And what's in the middle between the pins, so in front of my face, this is where the handles are. So you may want to do some twisting of the fabric if you have a pieced strap and you want different parts on the handle. But anyway, once you have the pins in, you want to put the pins somewhere in the middle of the bottom of the row. These two pins along the edges are halfway points along the edges, so these two pins on the straps should be along the same line. I could put a ruler there, but the ruler slides and it is bulky, so I can just put a little strip of paper here, a strip of fabric that sticks, and it's a straight line. So this bottom edge now is where the bottom of the bag will be. I can put the straps down closer to the edge, closer in, but in any case I want to do them evenly, so whatever this distance is, I want that distance the same. The other thing I want to pay attention to is I do not want any twists in my handle, so if I have the open edge on this side here, then it better be open also on this edge here, so I have to flip over. So now no twist here, equal distance from the edges, and then the pins should be in that line along the bottom of the tube. Okay. And I may want to move this in or out depending on if I want to cover or not cover part of the design. And then, if there's no twist on this side, there is no twist on the other side either. And then we start to pin this down. We pin the straps to the bag far down, but we don't go all the way to the edge. About 1.5 inches down, I just eyeball it, 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches. I go down and I put in a horizontal pin only through the strap, not through the bag. And I pin this side too, and I make a parallel pin over here. Okay. So I do it throughout. I have an example here already worked out. Alright, so this is pinned. We have the 2 loose pins at the top and also the bottom. But we don't sew the main part of the straps down yet. We first want to close down these handles. But I like to pad my handles. And so the handles, I cut the strips at 4 inches, and these battings should be 2 inches or less, only half of that or less in. The strips, the batting strips, don't have to handle the whole length, but just enough for what the hand or the shoulder will carry. This is probably a little too big. Anyway, we open up those folds and we put the middle of the batting strip to the top of the handle. We put it down, put it in, and then start covering it up. And now when we close it down, because of that fat batting, we have to pin it down. Earlier here, where there's no batting, the 2 folded edges, pressed edges, just stick together. But here we have to pin. The thicker the batting, the more pins we have to do, but then we have more comfort later. Anyway, we do that fully. I already did it to the other side. It's all pinned in. Okay, so what do we do now? So remember those loose pins on the straps that aren't in the bag? All right. So we sew from about 1/2 inch up from this pin, starting on the open side. We top stitch about 1/8 inch away from the edge. We go all the way around. We stop the seam at about 1/2 inch from this loose pin here, cross over, sew on the other side again at about 1/8 inch away from the edge, get to about 1/2 inch above this loose pin, and then cross over. And we do that for both handles. Here is an example of that. Both handles have been sewn in. And now is the time to sew down the straps. Okay. So what is happening in the straps, we have that seam on the strap that's about 1/2 inch above this pin. So that seam is about 1 inch below the top of the bag. And we want to sew up to that seam between the 2 cross seams on this side and also on this side. And the other thing that's important for extra strength is when we get close to that seam on the top, if we're coming up from this side, we sew up here, sew across, and then extra tacking, we cut at 45-degree angle down, then across, come back up at 45 degrees, Then second time around, so this is now a double seam, good for strength, and then keep going down to the other side. So in other words, we do some tacking at all the beginnings of the handles. So here is everything is tacked down. The handles are ready. So it's time to start putting the bag together. I put my bag on top of some big enough fabric that is the inner lining. Put the handles in, and then I just cut around, and what I get is the lining fabric. Okay? This fabric, the lining fabric is not for strength, it's just for neatness and beauty. And then separately we sew the two side edges of the bag together at about 1/2 inch away from the edges. And then the same for the lining fabric. We sew at about 1/2 inch on one side, but on the other side, again at 1/2 inch, but we leave a hole open so that we can turn the bag over, inside out. So here is the lining fabric for another bag. Here it's all seamed, and on the other side I have a hole. There's a hole. Okay. And here is the bag sewn together. Make sure that the top is stitched well, and the bottom doesn't matter so much. In the next step we want to create the bottom. So we form a little triangle here. Did you see how I folded this? Let me do it again on this side. I go inside and I fold this back. And for this quilted piece, I will open the seam and I will sew across horizontally. And if I sew higher up, that will make a wider bottom. If I sew lower down, it will make a narrower bottom. I sew once across, I stack at the two ends, and I also go back and forth the middle a few times. And then I sew also 1/4 inch again down below for extra strength. And I want to make sure that the two triangles on both sides are about the same. I also make the same triangles on the lining fabrics. Okay, but there I only go across once. And I may open the seam or maybe not. So here is an example of such a bag. So it's all sewn twice. And then what we do is we cut maybe a generous 1/4 inch away from one of the two seams. I already cut the other side, and here is the other triangle we cut off. The other one is already cut off. And then another advantage of quilted bags is this bag stands up. I put the handles in, make it stand up, and I turn the lining inside out, and I put the right sides of the lining and of the bag together, sides to sides, and I pin them in place here. So here, pins on the sides, and then I put a few extra pins elsewhere, and then I just sew around about 1/2 inch from the top. So all the way around. Here is such a bag sewn all the way around. Oh, we're almost done. I pull out the lining. I find that opening in the lining that we left, and I reach inside and I pull the bag through. We're almost there. So here, this is a pretty small bag, and we're almost done. There are only a few more things to do. I will want to sew down this hole, and I will do it, I will top stitch with a sewing machine when I have a thread about that color. And then this gets tucked in. And the other thing that we still have to do, or we might want to do, is right now the lining is being pushed up by all that quilting protruding out. So I like to push it down, make the seam be the top, and then top stitch all the way around. And you can see top stitching here, and in my other bags the lining is not protruding out. Right, so that's all there is to it. There are many steps, but it is definitely worth it, having these sturdy bags that can carry lots of groceries home and any other precious material. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Bye.